Tonight, the GOP kingmaker, former President Donald Trump, makes a big endorsement for Speaker of the House. It's a fierce contest with much disarray in the GOP-dominated House. So who did Trump endorse? Ohio Congressman and Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan. Does Chairman Jordan want the job? And can he do it? Well, it's best to ask him. I did, for you. Mr. Chairman, nice to see you, sir.
Good to be with you, Greta.
Mr. Chairman, as I watch you in the Judiciary Committee, I think to myself all the time, if I ever get picked up for armed robbery, I want you to represent me because we cross-examine.
Well, I appreciate that's a compliment. I try to go about that work where I think about the constituents back home. What would they want me to ask, and how can I make the point that I think needs to be made and get the information that needs to be out there for the American people?
So tell me this: what's the skill set though for the Speaker of the House? Because I assume that's a different job. What do you see as that skill set?
Bringing the team together. This job at this moment is really about two fundamental questions. Who can unite the Republican conference? Who can bring the team together? And then who can go tell the American people what we're doing and why it matters to them, how it impacts them, their family, their community, their small business. That is what the role is. And so I like the job I have. I didn't plan on running for Speaker, but I think I'm the one individual uniquely positioned within the conference to bring the team together and go tell the American people why we're doing important work for them.
You know, it seems to me from the outside it's like herding cats. We've all watched what's been going on for the last week, and in fact, we saw the 15 ballots in January. Yep. It's like herding cats. And it seems to me that a Speaker's role, and correct me if I'm wrong, is twofold. You have your choice. You can either pass legislation that you know will get through the Senate, which is dominated, the majority is Democrats and signed by the President Democrat, or you can satisfy sort of the deep passions and ideologies of those who don't necessarily agree.
Well, I think you can address the issues the country wants addressed, and if you focus on that perspective and that objective, right now the country wants to address the border situation. It is front of mind for everyone. There's a reason Eric Adams went to Central America. There's a reason he said what he said a few weeks ago about what this is doing. So you address the issues that are front and center on the American people's mind, and you use good common sense strategy and tactics to get that done in a legislative body where there is inevitably has to be a compromise. So, but that's how you, I think, have to operate. That's how I've tried to operate, and I think that has to be the focus. So it's not one or the other. It's what can we get done in divided government? This is how our system works. That actually benefits the American people. I'll give you a great example. We passed a good border security immigration enforcement legislation. I wish the Senate would take up our bill.
So how do you get that done? I mean, that's a challenge. You could pass great bills in any House of Congress, but if you can't get it past the opposing one, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, how would you get a bill like that?
Two things.
Okay.
Two things. One, you talk about it. You tell the American people about it. We did X. Why won't the Senate take it? Why won't Chuck Schumer take it up and address the problem? They can amend it, they can change it. That's how our system works. And you know, what did Churchill say? Our form of government's the worst form there is, except for all the others. So it's the best process in place. Use the process, they amend it, send it back, then we iron out the differences, put it up for a vote, and we see what we get for the country. That's how the process, so you go talk about it. Second, you do look for those opportunities where you have to, on must-pass bills, there's certain things that have to pass to fund the government, except you say what issue is so powerful that we can put on this legislation that they have to deal with. And I argued a few weeks ago that we should have put on the stopgap spending measure, we should have put on that immigration. We could have put one sentence on that. No money can be used to process or release into the country any new migrants. One sentence would solve the problem. We should have done that and say, okay, we're all for making sure the government stays funded and our troops get paid and everyone gets paid. But we want to address the issue that the American people care about. Republicans care about it, independents care about it, Democrats care about it. That's how you operate. And you got to be smart about it, and you got to focus on the things that the American people know need to be focused on.
It appears you have some members of your conference, 8 to be precise, who have very deep views, and maybe even, I'll use the word stubborn. They weren't going to vote for anything unless their spending was reduced. A lot of things were done. How do you bring them inside the tent in light of the fact that you have such a narrow margin of majority in the Republican Party?
I think we're in a whole different world than we were just 3 days ago. What happened 3 days ago has never happened in American history. So we're in a different world, and we have to realize, oh, wait a minute, things have changed. And if we don't come together, then where the Democrats want to take the country, particularly the left, which I think now controls that party, is not where I want to go, not where our constituents want to go. I don't think it's where the American people ultimately want to go. So we better come together and figure out how we can all, from the 8 who voted in a way that I disagreed with, but I respect those individuals, but I think they were dead wrong in what they did, to everyone else who voted the other way, and the whole cross-section of the conference. I think we have to come together, or you get complete chaos, coalition government. And I tell folks, if we go to that, then everything changes. Everything changes in the Congress. Committee chairman could change, ratios and makeups of committee. We don't want to go there. We want to do what we told the American people we were going to do. So we better come together.
How do you convince Congressman Matt Gaetz? Because it appears that he can hold you hostage in light of the fact that there's such a slim majority.
We shouldn't go to the floor next week until we have 218 votes for the speaker. We got to determine that in conference. Shouldn't go to the floor next week unless we have 218 votes to change the motion to vacate. Leader Jeffries is already out with some statement that they want to work with they will only work with Republicans to change. So if they're saying that kind of thing, that they're going to want all kinds of stuff to change that rule. We have to decide as Republicans that we will change that House rule on the House floor. And frankly, I think we should, as a conference, come together and say we should figure out how we have 218 votes to deal with what's coming on November 17th, this stopgap funding measure we're in right now, how we're going to deal with that, and know that before we go out on the floor and elect a speaker as well.
Do you have sort of a plan how to deal with that?
Yeah, you got to do the stopgap funding measure. Understand, in the debt ceiling agreement, the spending number that was agreed to is actually a cut. Not as much as we should cut. We got a huge deficit and debt problem. I get it. But in divided government, it's the first time I've been in Congress where we actually reduced spending. So that's the number. But also in that bill was a good provision. It said if we're into a stopgap spending plan into next year, so if we have some kind of spending plan into next year, continuing resolution, whatever you want to call it, if we're into that to next year, there's an automatic 1% cut that kicks in. So I think we should do that, pass that kind of spending plan into next year, and have the incentive, the threat of a 1% cut hanging over politicians' head here in Congress. And there's nothing like that incentive to get Congress to do their work, to then actually deal with the individual appropriation bills where we can determine policy preferences and how we're going to spend the hard-earned money of the American people. Unless you have that incentive there, I don't think you get there. And to me, that was the beauty. That was the reason I supported the debt ceiling agreement, because it actually put in place that provision. I think we should run the play that we set up. And we set that up in that debt ceiling agreement. And guess what, Greta? 2/3 of the Congress voted for it, Republicans and Democrats. And the President of the United States signed it. So they've already agreed to that provision and that level of spending. Let's do it. And then we can focus on the policy in those 12 individual appropriation bills. That seems so rational to me, so common sense to me. I don't know why we didn't do it before. But I think that is the plan that we have to come together on. And I think I'm the one guy who can bring our team together. Again, from Scott Perry, chairman of the Freedom Caucus, to Jeff Van Drew, who's supporting me as well publicly, who was a Democrat 4 years ago.
What about the motion to vacate? It's become the death penalty. I mean, is that going to change?
I think we have to have 218 Republicans who are willing to change that. The conference, I've been talking to all the conference the last couple days, and everyone wants to see that change. Everyone in the conference wants to see that change. But I think we got to get all the way to 218 and do it with Republican votes on the House floor. As I said earlier, if you have to use Democrats to change that, they're going to want all kinds of things that I don't think are to the benefit of the country and how the Congress works. So we're going to have to be able to do that with Republicans.
Okay, now take me behind closed doors. Tell me the process that begins this whole selection, because you do behind closed doors, the Republican conference will meet. But how does this happen? What goes on?
Well, there's the schedule's being worked out, but there's going to be a conference first where I think members are just going to come talk. And
do you do a pitch? I mean,
well,
do a speech? I mean, how does
there'll be a conference first, but then there'll be a candidate forum where there will be a chance to interact with the conference, have a debate style format inside the conference. I think just the general conference where we talk about all kinds of issues. Obviously, this will be front and center, but that'll be, I think the schedule's that's Monday, Tuesday. There's a candidate forum. Wednesday, there's a vote. I think that's how this is supposed to play out. But again, I don't think we can come out of the conference and go to the floor of the House of Representatives until we have 218. I don't think our conference, I don't think the country wants to go through the same thing we went through back in January.
So it'd be like sending smoke signals up through the chimney.
Well,
almost.
I just think we can come together for both of those issues, 218 for the Speaker, 218 for the motion to vacate change.
Coming up, more from Chairman Jim Jordan, including today's endorsement from former President Donald Trump and the chairman's position on sending money to Ukraine. Should the United States do that or not? That one, the record continues after this.